Uncomfortable conversations aren't fun. They're the conversations you often put off until the last minute and anticipate with dread. And yet, being able to have them is an essential part of effective leadership and a hallmark of a successful career. Shying away from these conversations may appear on the surface to be the easy option, but experience shows that avoidance doesn't work. Today we will tell you the value of uncomfortable conversations at work. Before starting the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you would get notified when we upload the next video. Number 8. Why uncomfortable conversations are good for you. It's easy to make assumptions about a person's intent, particularly in an organizational context, and if your relationship with the person is challenging. We can wrongly infer a negative intent, which impacts how we react to their opinions and ideas. By having an open conversation, being clear with the other person the value you place on the relationship, and then understanding their intent and background, you open the path for a stronger and healthier relationship with them. Having a healthy working relationship with a work colleague doesn't mean you always have to agree with them. It does, however, mean that you take the time to see things from their perspective. Consequently, each time we have a difficult conversation with someone, we learn and grow from the experience. It broadens our perspective and reminds us to not be closed to other people's opinions. When you are proactive and make the first move to step into a difficult conversation, it also puts you in a far better position to navigate how the conversation will proceed. Of course, these types of conversations need to be carefully considered and conducted. You're likely to fail if you take the crash-through approach. Number 7. Principles of uncomfortable conversations. This means you need to have the conversation with the following principles in mind. You enter the conversation with good intent, a genuine interest in the other person, and a desire to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome. You strive to ensure the person knows that you value the relationship. Abandon the assumptions you hold about the other person's intent, and so consequently you don't jump to conclusions and remove judgment. Instead, you are curious and ask lots of questions to clarify the intent of what is being said. Hold the conversation face-to-face, recognizing the importance of body language and communication. Have the conversation at a time when you are not rushed, frazzled, or anxious, as you know it is important to be centered, present, and calm. Create space for the other person to feel fully heard, so you listen, are comfortable with silence, and don't talk over the other person. Consider in advance what you want to say during the conversation. People hear messages differently, and to have a hearable message you need content that connects with them on a cognitive and emotional level. The esteemed management guru, Peter Drucker, once said, "The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said." However, if more people felt confident and comfortable to step into difficult conversations, we would need to spend less time guessing about a person's actions and their intent. Number 6. We need an uncomfortable conversations revolution. It's true that part of the reason we don't get our needs met is that everyone has their own agenda, and sometimes that agenda runs contrary to our own. But a huge contributor is that we're unwilling to initiate a discussion about something that might be challenging. What would be different if we could all push through the vulnerability and discomfort of talking about hard things? We would get more of our needs met, yes, but we would also understand better what other people need instead of having to guess or read minds. We would all understand each other better and feel closer and more connected. We would feel less shame on an individual and systemic level, and we wouldn't feel the need to protect ourselves from it by blaming, judging, arguing, and becoming defensive. Number 5. Uncomfortable conversations help you get your needs met. Assertiveness is an act of kindness. When you're assertive, you're saying, "It's hard to ask for this, but I know I'll get upset with you if I don't, and I value our relationship enough for this conversation to be worth the risk." You're also eliminating the need for minefield, like conversations where the other person has to read between the lines. Initiating an uncomfortable conversation doesn't have to look like an attack, and in fact, it shouldn't. Instead, a successful, uncomfortable conversation begins with one person kindly and respectfully asking for something they want or need. It's then navigated by giving your conversation partner the benefit of the doubt in order to remain calm and connected while talking about a difficult thing. You're not a mind reader, which you already know. It's much harder to remember that this is also true of the people in your life. When you have an uncomfortable conversation, you're relieving a loved one of the burden of trying to guess what you're thinking and relieving yourself of the fallout if they guess wrong. Number 4. Uncomfortable conversations lead to deeper connection. If I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Connection is why we're all here. But what is connection? Think about the people in your life who you feel deeply connected to. What does that actually mean? For most people, it means feeling seen, understood, and loved. Uncomfortable conversations help you clarify your thoughts and feelings so that another person can see you with more depth and understand you better. They can also relieve qualms or doubts about whether you are loved. And that's how connection deepens. We can wrongly infer a harmful intent, which impacts how we react to their opinions and ideas. Consequently, each time we have a challenging conversation, we learn and grow from the experience. It broadens our perspective and reminds us not to be closed to other people's opinions. Number 3. Uncomfortable conversations mitigate shame. Brené Brown defines shame as fear of disconnection. It's the sense of I'm all alone, or I'm not good enough, or even I'm worthless. For this reason, shame thrives in conditions of secrecy. Shame that remains unspoken grows, because all you can do is imagine what's happening in other people's minds. Some people create ways to manage shame that doesn't involve acknowledging it. These defenses include blame, anger, defensiveness, withdrawing, and other pretty toxic emotions. This is why shame is such a dangerous thing when it's felt deeply by people in power. But other people, who practice what Brown calls shame resilience, are really great at talking to the important people in their lives when they're in shame. These are people who can identify when they feel ashamed. Rather than trying to quell it, these people reach out to supportive people who they trust. When people untangle their shame through these uncomfortable conversations, they don't feel the need to shame others. When leaders are driven by courageous vulnerability rather than shame, they don't need to abuse their power. When shame is mitigated, we are all kinder, more loving, and more connected people. And I genuinely believe that for all of these reasons, uncomfortable conversations can change the world. Number 2. Connection matters. Conversations are at the root of human connection. Research by Jian Guo and Dallas A. Francis. Conversation at Work: The Effects of Leader-Member Conversational Quality, found that the quality of the conversation between leaders and team members had a significant impact on employees' organizational commitment. How we talk, when we talk, and how much we talk to each other matters. By having an open conversation, being transparent with the other person about the value you place on the relationship and understanding their intent and background, you open the path to building a more stable and healthier relationship. Having a healthy working relationship with a work colleague doesn't mean you always have to agree with them. It does, however, require you to take the time to see things from their perspective. It's easy to make assumptions about a person's intent, particularly in an organizational context, and if your relationship with the person is challenging. We can wrongly infer a harmful intent, which impacts how we react to their opinions and ideas. Number 1. How to have an uncomfortable conversation. Part of why the talk was so successful was the way in which it was done. Each person left with a commitment and an action that would move them forward and not keep them brooding in the past. It was also extremely direct, and this is one of the most important points to consider when having a difficult conversation. Gone are the days of sandwich feedback. As author Susan Scott says in her book Fierce Conversations, the best way to have a productive conversation is to get straight to the point. She outlines 7 key things to address within the first 60 seconds of any difficult talk. Name the issue, select a specific example that illustrates the behavior or situation you want to change. Describe your emotions surrounding this issue. Clarify what's at stake. Identify your contribution to the problem. Indicate your wish to resolve it. Invite them to respond and get input. By answering each point for ourselves ahead of time, it not only helps us structure the conversation, but it allows us to gain clarity as to what we're really trying to convey. And as I move toward the forming stage and beyond with my new crew, I look forward to continuing to tackle issues as openly and as directly as possible, no matter which side of the conversation I might happen to be on. Do let us know in the comments when's the last uncomfortable conversation you had. Share your experience with us and tell us what made it easier for you to tackle the issue head-on. Thanks for watching.